Hi there, my name is Finley Padwick, and for the next few minutes I'll be walking you through my proposed plans for the Dunston Staiths and Riverside Park redevelopment plan in conjunction with Newcastle University's History and Society module HIS3030. The Staiths at Dunston are a historically significant site on the south bank of the River Tyne. They are a site which fully encapsulates the culture of the North East as well as preserving the history of the towns in the region. But it is a site which for many generations is massively underutilised, both through structural damage as well as poor upkeep, which has resulted in its losing its place in the minds of most residents. This project will take the form of a room at the base of the staves on the riverbank, in which there will be 4 black walls with seating built into the structure for visitors to sit on. From behind this seating, a film will be projected onto the walls, showing ships docking at the staiths, being filled with cargo, and making off to ports not just around the country, but also internationally, further allowing for visitors to get an understanding of how intrinsically linked to the history of the whole region this particular site is. This pod does not have to be used just for the staiths, but could equally be used to project films of people who lived and worked on the staiths themselves. Initially opened by the North East Railway Company in 1893, the Staiths facilitated the loading of coal onto ships from trains who had come from pits in the surrounding areas such as Shiremore and South Shields. The Staiths themselves are situated on the south bank of the River Tyne in a town called Dunston, and are believed to be the largest timber structure in Europe. What set the Staiths apart from any other coal port was that tracks were laid on top of the structure to allow for peak efficiency and minimal time wasted transporting the raw materials off trains onto the ships. This level of streamlining, added with the natural depth of the river itself, allowed for more ships to sail right up to the bankside and made Newcastle, South Shields and Gateshead the coal capital of the UK, in particular during the Industrial Revolution. Being new to the area 3 years ago, it struck me how many in my generation, and generations older than me, didn't know, or chose to forget, about the history of what made Newcastle the city it is today. Although this is slightly less true across the river, due to the area being slightly more working class, the point still stands that the heritage surrounding these landmarks has been eroded away for decades, and how damaged and poorly kept that they are is a testament to that fact. The protection of sites with historical significance up and down the country, such as the Staiths, in my eyes, starts with the education of the people, especially those who live with these sites in their day-to-day activities. So how does this proposal fit into the History and Society brief? This proposal would aim to cover the topic of history and society very broadly, as not only does it involve using a previously underused site of historical importance to revitalise not just the Staiths, but hopefully drive greater amounts of visitors into the urban areas of Gateshead and Dunston. In addition to this, it aims to aid the learning of many in the region who had no idea of the significance of the site by allowing them to engage in passive learning, which will be watching the film about the site. Passive learning on sites such as the Staiths is so important in increasing interaction with the project due to the fact that there is minimal effort needed to be put in by the visitors in order to learn something, which in the society that we live in today, built on how fast a consumer has their needs met, becomes key. What would this project look like? When on a virtual field trip earlier on this semester, we were informed that one way we could develop our installations could be as a pod, within which we could attempt to engage visitors with an aspect of history that links to the region. The pod itself, in my project, would take the form of a concrete or other hard-wearing but cheap material space, with the potential to include a mural around the outside of the stage and how they would have looked through time. Inside the room, all 4 walls would be painted black, allowing the visitors to focus solely on a light in the room, which would come from the projection of a film onto a wall. This would be shown in a loop as a timeline of the Staiths from their opening to the present day, along with their uses and the routes some of the ships would have taken once they'd left the docks. I envisage my pod looking similarly to the image that you see currently on this slide. Archival footage from the Staiths would prove invaluable for this project, as it would not only add to the aesthetic of the film itself, but would add a sense of realism to the whole project in the eyes of the visitors. I feel this pod would be best situated on the riverbank rather than the Staiths itself, partly due to the structural sustainability of the Staiths, especially with the added weight of a concrete structure on it, but I think more importantly it allows the visitors to get an understanding of the site that they are about to visit. So how would this project be structured? With the dilemma of making this project hard-wearing enough that minimal expenditure is required, but making it as aesthetically pleasing as possible, several problems were thrown up. What materials could be used, and how to deal with the potential of it being an eyesore. The key to both of these questions lie in the recycled materials. I believe the best way to go about this project is to spend high in the initial startup, with, for example, concrete or other weatherproof material, but then supplement this with materials from around the area, such as sleepers off the old railway, treated with waterproofing materials to reinforce the corners of the building. The same could be said for bits of metal off the track themselves, which could be woven into the wall's fabric, with parts being made visible. This would both add strength to the structure as a whole, keep costs down, and also lending this project a very organic nature. Where have initiatives like this been used before, and what successes have they had? The reason as to why I wanted to do a project like this, using a landmark steeped in historical significance and bringing it back to the forefront of locals' memories, is because it is similar to a project undertaken near me on Boscombe Pier, where murals and pictures were placed on up the middle of the pier, showing the heritage of the site. This added another layer of intrigue in the site and increased footfall in the area hugely. The actual installation of the room itself on the Staiths is something commonly seen throughout the world, in art galleries in particular, and the site's close proximity to the Baltic Art Gallery would surely lend itself to the local surroundings. So how would this project get started up in terms of public knowledge? Often, the success of a project like this is how the public in the area it is in welcome such developments, and leading on from this, how busy the project is within the first few months. In tackling this issue, the best approach for me would be mass advertising, in particular on social media platforms such as Facebook, where there are several forums not just for the Staiths themselves, but for Dunston as a town and the wider Gateshead and Newcastle communities. Pages such as Dunston Staiths Restoration Project, which has 1,800 followers, or the Dunston Residents page, which has a whopping 6,100 members. Both of these are on Facebook. Save the Staiths on Twitter would also prove valuable to getting in contact with, utilising another social media source in order to gain traction. Further to this, renting advertising space in the Newcastle Chronicle will also allow for more traffic to pass over this story, with the Chronicle itself boasting in February 2021 12 million visitors to their site. So the cost management of this project. With all projects, it is key to know the environment in which you're aiming to install it, as well as the people who are having to live with it daily. As seen on a previous slide, although initially this project could be created to show the history of the Staiths and the significance they had in aiding not just Britain but other nations' development, in particular during the Industrial Revolution, the location and facilities could be used to highlight other aspects of historical North East. So bearing this in mind, the aim will be to make entry to the room itself free to all visitors, as this will not only increase willingness of visitors to participate, but also show that the aim of the project is to educate, not create money. The fact that this room could be used to show other projects as well as the Dunston Staiths could be potentially where some income comes in due to the ability to rent the facilities for other projects. How would this project ensure that it has sufficient COVID-19 measures? It is important, especially in the times that we live in, to take steps in order to stop the spread of COVID-19. So for this to happen, I feel on initial opening, until the government says so, capacity will be filled initially by booking as to manage the numbers. This could either be done in advance via a website or upon arrival, whereby visitors are allowed to wander along the riverbank until their booking time. This would also allow numbers to be kept down. Thank you for listening.